Hello and welcome. It is Friday, the third day of January 2018. My name is Derek and welcome to the Money Charts channel. I spend a lot of my charts and time amongst crypto charts, and this one will be non crypto charts. Things like stock indexes, gold, silver, the dollar indexes. I might even just randomly take a look at some stocks that are in the headlines. But we'll start off with the S&P 500 in at 825.88 at, well, I don't, that's not the price, it's higher than that. However, back in here, this is like back to 83. 1883. This is before I and you and everyone on this planet was born. 5.5. And when looking at this, what can I take from this that can give us any vantage use? Well, 1929, we've seen this fall 5-6 times its value, and the stock market was like 7-8. So we'll say it was capable of this large of a move. What other decent corrections has it had? It's had this one, correcting this move to a higher low. We have just these little baby moves here, an okay one here. This is 1974. There was a decent sized move. You could hardly tell there was a stock market crash in 1987 in here. This extreme large leg higher. And that's where we stand today. So there was a 2008 fall. Where we came from is here, because it's been going straight up. So some of the things you can look at when looking at this or take from this chart, it's capable of major moves. This is way back in the day, so maybe you could say it's not. But if we are talking about what would be not quite a 10x move, then you could be talking about breaking this level of support and maybe coming back to the 1987 highs as far as major downside room. What's the story amongst the bull markets from these major lows? So after this break low here, the length of time that this had was pretty good. From this low in here, the length of time this had, well, was pretty good. And from this low, the length of time that this has had has nowhere near been as good so far as this one. So you can say all you want that this is overextended, but in doing so, you would have said it might have been overextended in here at like 200, even 181, and then it goes all the way up to 1300 and change, 14 and change. Just something to keep in mind, because I look at two ways of big moves in either direction. The wave lower, fear, panic, and just a lot of that type of stuff. People trading stocks, and when I say people, the big institutions, and doing something like they've done before to just bring the market down a lot lower, especially during times when the media is talking about words like recession, and there's a lot of talk about how our currency is so bad and all that type of stuff, and just whatever is going on bad amongst the economy. When there's bad news, that's just going to make it go lower. Well, maybe. For some of the big bad news is real inflation. And if that happens, in the near term that is, then there's a good chance we not only could continue what we have seen before throughout the 40s into the 70s, as well as up until the end of the 60s, as well as from 1974 to 2000, that we could see that happen a lot faster. So could this shoot up to 25,000 or do a 10x, 15, 20x move? Well, if there is any type of major hyperinflation, then I don't see why not. Now, how bad in today's world could hyperinflation get within the currency? Well, we'll talk about that after I'm done with this chart within the dollar index. But for now, let's move this onto the daily. And I'm going to scroll this out so there's less periods. And when this selling took place in here, at near the end of the year. That's just what happens all the time in these up markets. You go up and you have a little bit of a correction, but when this first correction breaks support for a leg, decent leg lower rather than resistance, and then it has a much larger leg lower than it did on the first one, then that gives concern only, I would think, for a more longer term bear market. But with each leg lower and increase of volatility, the more you really have to be aware for such an event. But then you look at this on multiple time frames. Weekly chart has already had the 18 flip over. It already had the band flattening out, established support, came back to the band. It's already broken support, thus putting it on a bear market on the weekly chart. And within the monthly, it's having a hard time with the correctionary move. So therefore, when you look at all of this empty space from this market rise, coming down here becomes a more decent correction within a secular bull market. And on situations where if it breaks down further, well, then we're going to start talking about hitting some highs from, well, this previous level in here. And they can happen fast and furious. But for stocks, that's it. Let's go on to the dollar. And from the mid-1980s, it's definitely had some up and down volatile periods. It's in the middle of the highest point, which is actually over 160 from calculations or from data that I have. I've seen over 160. And this low at 70.7. So it's in the middle-ish of this area, decently above this level of resistance, decently below this level of prior resistance as well. And from this move, it is really just hanging in there. It originally established a level of resistance at 100 and then later increased it to 104. It originally established some support around 92 1/3. It has then established it even lower at around 88. Let's take a look at less candles. And from this last low, it's managed to get to the 18 highs and not resist it, but support it. Have this little bit of a small break and now coming back to such an event. So we're seeing in the short run here, well, I can't say short run on the monthly chart, but the possibility of another leg higher and a test of this. But whenever you have a range like this, it's hard, and you're in the middle, it's hard for me to believe anything coming up here to have a great chance of breaking that resistance, as is the case of any move down to here. I realize it's got to break it at some point, and whether the next significant move is lower or higher to the key point, it's not an easy task to determine what the next play is. I'm just going to let the market decide from this point on. On the weekly chart, you have this level of resistance in here. After having this play like this, come down to the 18 lows, resist it, get above it, strengthen this level of resistance, and now has since come back to the lows. So this is great as far as letting a pattern come to you, because since it's had a second trip, then there's a okay chance if it comes up here that it's going to have a decent leg higher. Now it kind of should have done so up here, because it got to this resistance. We can see it was breaking out on the October 22 timestamp, spent several periods grinding it, so a lot of reason why one would be long on this spot and yet not be stopped. But that's exactly it, because if all these participants get in here and we see weakness coming further, then there's definite reason why a fast move to this level of support could come into play, and a lot of that is because of people who are getting in here realize, oh, they're stopped out, all those types of sort of situations. And it makes it very interesting when we look at the precious metals, because normally decent size sell-offs on here will translate into decent sized rallies in the metals, and opposite with rallies up here, sell-offs amongst the precious metals. We'll start with copper, and it ain't too precious because it's not a precious metal, it's a base metal. As far as its chart is concerned on the weekly time frame, several weeks just hanging in there, supporting the 18 lows, and not often, just really once actually, and resisting the 18 average of highs quite frequently, but within this range, and it has broken out. This red candle move was followed by a pause period. That means they digested the down move, and the buyers, at least when they brought it up, not for much and not for that fast. And within this week, the price has obviously had a fast move to where you would expect it to go to, previous low. And if this area gets taken out, because when looking at this in here, you have a rally attempt from the decline. You are correcting on the 18, not that well. It's resisting the 18. I'd be looking for this to have a fall down to this previous support level as we're looking at this. So not too precious of an upside target, or this looks like it's going to go lower from here. Platinum is that of a precious metal officially. Looking at its chart over the last 20 or so years, within this rally, it has a good price correction. Price correction to this high, big move. But since the down decline, and I don't know why it's doing that, but we have the situation of a good rally, unable to get above to where it was, because generally speaking, if it's going to have a lower high rally, I don't normally expect it to go much above a 61.8% level, which it did. Held it for a while, but since this level of support got taken down, good leg lower back to where it came from. Okay size rally and a lot of time in here, but now we see it showing weakness amongst the 18 average of lows, in at about that level of key support. Well, we shorten out the amount of candles and remove these lines. It becomes very clear because you got, again, this level of support. Broke it on the in the summer this year in June. Had just a decent leg lower. We've got a little bit of resistance in here, but now the market has digested this last move of November, and in December it didn't really change much. They're like, yeah, okay, whatever, you brought it down. I don't know. It's still not cheap, obviously, because they didn't buy it. So a lot of concern for this to head to the lower side of things. Amongst the a weekly chart, obviously this level of support, a level of resistance in here, and then the correction you move on the 18 lows, not finding support, rather it's finding resistance amongst that level. In the daily term, not much significant going on, but the three other precious metals are showing precious movements. For palladium on the daily chart is in at 1260, and this has been a lot of time amongst this resistance. Meanwhile, the pattern of all of these higher lows has not been disbanded. And there really isn't much time left because, well, it's like that ascending triangle. Once you get to that point where the support line meets up with that resistance vertical line, or horizontal line rather, then you're going to oftentimes have that big move of either a very good, decent set of green candles, singular green candle or two, or it's going to break below the 18 lows and maybe come back to some previous resistance areas where it came from. Looking at this upon the weekly term time frame, we can see that one of the key areas where it came from was about 11.25, and in doing so on the way up, after spending a little bit of time, it had a very good quick move, came back to where it came from for short-term support back to its level, and then it had a move higher. Now, can it have an intermediate term support test where it came from? Well, time will tell amongst that situation, but ever since it's broken out above it on the middle of September, it has maintained and stayed well above the 18 average of highs in a very, very good upward trend right now. We've already done the daily chart, so let's go to the monthly chart, and it's right now having just it's barely starting to be a standard breakout for point low, point high, correctionary point low, and then this one, it tells me there still can be leg room higher. When we take a look at more periods, the price action is at all-time highs above its 2000 levels. It's managed to get above there after all previous attempts were unable to do so. It had a long ways to go from the 2002 lows. Only got up to 560 with a pretty good beat down back to where it came from. But then it had a better rally in 2009 up until 2011. But since it had this top, unlike what happened here, the market managed to go sideways and not give back a major portion of its gains, making it very easy, or much easier when it started this rally in the early part of 2016, or about 3 years ago, for it to get up to this previous high. We can see it hit it, pull back to the 18 lows, and has since broke it. So I'll put another line in because it's really a ray of resistance when I put a line in around here. This is the resistance area band. So it's just, and I say so way too much, but it's broken past this level of resistance barely. So when looking, and there's a so, when looking at this on a longer term level, hitting some of these areas and even doubling from where we stand doesn't seem out of a large whack of a big thing. Even from this level here, you go from barely about 160 up to 850. So that is doubling to 300, doubling again to 600. That's about a 5x move. 5x from here would be about 2400. So I gotta stop saying that. This would be a level I would expect would be an area I'd be looking for resistance if it continues on further. Next up is gold. And within this, I just mentioned with palladium how because within its correctionary move, it didn't give back that much. It became very easy to get back to resistance. And because of such, well, it's hardly given anything back on gold when you look at this on a logarithmic monthly term time frame going back to the 2000 bottom. 250 up to 1900 down to under 11 has been the move. It kind of came back to where it came from. This was 1029 from my basic memory. I got I'm looking at the high 1032 they have. Either way, close, pierce above where it came from. And breaking out above this resistance, it doesn't have that far to go to reach its previous high near $1,800 and $1,900 an ounce. Within its move last time, it had about an 8x move, going from 250 to 2000. If it were to do an 8x move from about 1065, we're talking about $9,000 per ounce. And there's a lot of gold bugs that are going to be saying it's going to go a lot higher than that, and it very might well do such. But I'm going to be looking for a break of this resistance for things really, really to get going. Gold is doing much better in other currencies like the Canadian and the Australian dollar. But most people look at this chart. In fact, when I turn on, and I don't watch this much, maybe once or twice in the last year or once or twice in the last 3 years, which means I didn't watch it at all the 2 years prior, that I look at the price of gold and silver on BNN, which is the Canadian equivalency to CNBC, and they'll show gold and silver prices in the US dollar, even though for Canadians we have our own currency. And I'm going to talk about a little recent story about the Canadian dollar later in this video. Okay, this is later. I was at a drive-thru a couple days ago ordering food, and at the takeout window, the meal came to $11 and change. I knew I had what they call a toonie in Canada. That's a $2 coin. And I looked at my pocket and I seen the purple bill, which is the $10 note. I kind of screamed after looking at it. Why did I scream? And it wasn't for that long. It definitely wasn't for that loud, and I'm thankful it was in the drive-thru and not in the restaurant in line. It's because I looked at the image, and they have changed it. It used to always be former Prime Minister John A. Macdonald, and I haven't done much research in the new bill. In fact, none at all, really. And there was a woman on it. It wasn't Queen Elizabeth. It was some other one, and I literally looked at it because I never expected to see it. So I thought that was an interesting story. But gold getting above here, I would expect some amazing things. Let's take a look at less candles. And from the low, it had a higher low here. This is a higher low again. So there will be another test of resistance amongst here, it seems. If it's going to make another higher low, 18 average of lows in at 1230-ish or so. And getting above here again, I would expect magnificent results. Weekly term time frame, making it above this 1244 level of resistance. It's working its way higher. It's coming close to what a 61% Fibonacci level would be, probably closer to about 1300. Important to hold the key area where it came from, about 1240 on any type of retracements on the daily chart. Nice little grind higher as we see it continuing to the upside. Not going up a great volatility or rate of ascent, but continuously making decent sized gains higher, which is why I label it grinding its way higher. Silver, on the other hand, is grinding its way higher with extreme or larger volatility, larger rate of ascent, because there's multiple good sized green candles, today being no exception, in at 15 2/3. It's gotten above the resistance at 14 9/10 or 14.907, and just continuously going towards the upside very, very nicely. Amongst the 4-hour term, that's the grinding its way higher. Nice volatile move on here on the green candle that has continued the nice upward movement on the weekly chart. Getting above in here, that's the area where I want to see it hold and stay above. I like to see it come and enter into this previous congestion area. And on the monthly chart, well, as I stated with gold and palladium, that because it made a significant higher low, or palladium did and gold is looking to do such, that it doesn't take much to get to previous high. For gold, fell almost half its value, going from 1900 to under 11. Silver, well, 50 down to 14. That's pretty much, well, 14 multiplied 2 is 28. Adding another 14 is 42. That's about 3.5 times its value. That's a much larger size decline. So one might say it's going to be a lot harder and breaking out above. Well, I know when this is ready to go, it's going to be crypto-like, and it can have very big moves. And it got above the 18 average in here, establishing a level of resistance. Stage number 2. Stage 3 came back to the band, and it actually did that. Stage 3 happened. It started it on October the 3rd, 2016. It then left the band in June of 2018. This is about the largest I've ever seen for number of periods in stage 1 established or band flatten out, stage 2 established, stage 3 come back, and we're still in stage 3. And even if it goes below it, as long as it doesn't really break down, then it's got the chance to still hold and stay above and within it, and therefore it's got that chance still. It's in that mode of trying to break this level, and that even tells me that if it gets above this level of resistance, whether it happens quick, and that would be in the month of January, or February even, February, March, or whether it takes several more years and continuously holds and stays above this 13 and 3/4 level. That because of the extended time and energy, that I'd even give it a much better chance of a huge gain in comparison to if it would have done it, say, on a break of this resistance, because it came to the lows at the end of 2016. 2 months later, it came to the highs. There was an opportunity there to break higher. It didn't do it. But had it have done so, say one period to get to the highs, maybe a couple pause periods or 4 or 5 price corrections down and back higher, and then break, say if it would have broken it in, say, June of 2017, then I would have expected good movements, but not as good as I would now if it ends up breaking it because of the extended time in which it has had. And when looking at this with more candles going back to the 2000 lows, it's still holding a very good area. It hasn't hit any of this empty space, not since in here. And getting above this level. We've seen big moves happen here. We've seen a big move happen here. Big move happen here. Not shown on this chart are the big moves that happened from 1972 through 1980. So there are definite reasons that this thing can just, when it wants to go off and it's ready to go off, to basically, well, go off. But just for fun, let's take a look at some stock codes I've never seen before in my life. I've never even heard of these tickers. What's up with this market going up 885%? Let's take a look at that. And then we got 3 up about 25-27%. But I want to take a look at the bigger volume one in CELG and see what's up with that. Even though we got a 54% here too as well. Any big loser? Well, we got 75% down for this one, penny stock. And we got SCSN at $1. So let's take a look at a few of these really quickly. And NM is something I'm going to probably definitely use the buy low, sell high system that I've talked about and see how you'd play out today. Obviously, you're getting your ass kicked since 2014 and over the last little while. But if you were to say start and go at the beginning when this was 56, buy a bit, sell a bit, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell up here, buy down here, sell up here, buy, and you'd be buying today probably. I'd be very interested. Now it doesn't seem like it's down too much lately, but not doing so well. However, this thing does have potential to have like one of those quick trades up to like 5 and change. It's looking like it's trying to attempt to do so. If it does, then and it breaks out of this level of resistance, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes past a little north of 5. But I also realize within these bear markets that if this thing doesn't hold, and well, new low below that could be in the dollar something. And considering NM is up like 9.5 times, I don't see that in the chart. Let's take a look next at CELG. I've never seen this chart before. I will now. And I'm going to start off within the hour time frame and just see what it looks like. It's on the NASDAQ, but that makes sense. There's your gain. A gap's open, and then it's going down a little bit. 4-hour term, it was in a major lower high, lower low situation, and it declined like a lot of stocks have been. Looking like it's going up instantly, 61% Fibonacci. So this is if you're playing the stock game, and I'm asking the question because I don't know the answer to this. Because if I'm playing this game, I'd be like, okay, buy 71, or maybe I buy 66. Say I got a sell order here, fill at 74. Do some buying. My last buy was 60. I got to put a sell order at 72. Would my 72 sell? Would that order have actually hit during the time when quote unquote the market was closed? Question mark. I don't know, but interesting within some of these gap moves. Let's just take a look at this more longer term weekly chart. Been in a downtrend since these 2017 highs. How much is it participate in the decade rally? definitely has done so a little bit, but within a chart like this level of support was resisted. So when you come down here, that's what I'd be saying. Oh, where are we going to go in any rally? We are around 94, which is exactly where it went to. Leg lower, still lower high, still has to get above the 18 average of those, or the higher end of the blue line, which is the 18 highs, to attempt to break the trend. And anytime I see, I'm not going to be looking further at this, but anytime if I were to see declines coming in on this, then I'd be definitely concerned that it can make another lower low or another leg lower. And let's take a look at K-top. It sounds very Russian to me. That's because V is at the end of so many words like Larionov and Krutov and Makarov and Bure and Fedorov. And there's also Konstantinov and, well, there's also McGillney. McGillney played for the Buffalo Sabres at one point. Just named a whole bunch of hockey players that were from Russia, but that's where a lot of them had the names with the V at the end. So this is the same thing. Gapping higher was a 60-cent mark, 114 now. Weekly chart, just managing to get up to the 18 average of highs after a steady decline period. So like I said, I'm not too optimistic that it's going to be able to go much higher from here. I wouldn't be surprised if it shows weakness at the 18 lows and maybe goes below there going further. And there isn't much to this. It's only been around since 2016. But it's went up to 6.5 down to 60 cents. That's what it is. And this most volatile, I gotta take a look at CHFS because apparently it's up like 1,200%. And I guess on the monthly chart with this S in the way, I'm gonna have to move it or change the time frame so I can see this monstrous gain. I mean, it's been going down quite a bit. It was at 68,000, and now it's at $6.44. I'm sure these are based on stock splits. I don't think in 2013 this was 45,000 a share. I think it's been adjusted maybe a few times over. Wow, what a decline! What a decline! Weekly, where's this gain? Where's the gain? What's the price at according to you? It's up 671, which means, was it 50 cents anywhere in here? Was it during the time the markets were closed? That is, well, it's volatile to say the least. I wouldn't buy this actually. I would, even if I was into stocks, I wouldn't buy this right now. Okay, let's take a look at SESN. After all, buy low, sell high. Is that a time to buy low? We'll take a look. And we'll put in SCSN, which is Session Bio Incorporated. Ooh, yikes, that's just not nice. No, the answer is you don't buy. I mean, I guess you could, but I'd be looking for, well, the reason why is because you have this low. I want to buy at a decent leg lower, which already happened. So now I'd want to buy at a decent leg lower from this one. It already came right back down. I don't know how well you can see the line, but it hit that previous low, and yeah, it's not looking too good. On the weekly chart, I guess the area I'd be putting a buy order would be around, if I were to play it, would be around 68 cents, 67, back down to its previous low. And when you look at the situation of this since this high, you correct for a while within the 18, first to the lows, back up to the highs, back to the lows, then it resists, shows weakness, but it holds and stays above it. Gets above here, but doesn't do much. And then it stopped holding and staying above the 18 average of lows during this decline. Followed up by the green candle up, red candle back down. I'd be expecting this to go to where it came from. And looking at this on the monthly chart, even here, becomes a very scary situation because you got this previous low as well. However, I mean, you do got some nice volatile moves. Everything you sell, you buy down here, you can sell up here. A little bit of buyback, some more buying, a little bit of selling, and you'd be starting to buy. If this was a crypto chart, I would probably, if I liked it and I think there was good reason why I don't think it's going to continue to go lower, I probably would put an order at the 66 handle, realizing that I'd have a small buy order here, then another buy order there, and then just keep on placing buy and sell orders along the way. But that'll be it for this video. Thank you for tuning in to a non-crypto related video. I should be doing more of these, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.